Greetings, QCS build fans. Well, look at this. We're looking at a Windows desktop in a box. What could this be? Oh, that's right. We're gonna show you how to set up a domain controller. So right now we've got Windows loaded. We got Windows Server loaded. We've actually got it loaded on a virtual machine. If you want to see how to load Hyper-V and set that up with all the drives and everything, go back and look at our original EPYC 3 video. It's a little long. It's only like an hour and a half. But if you really want some very somewhat step-by-step detail and a lot of detail and how to set up a Hyper-V server, go back and look at that one. But anyways, all right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started here. All right, so first things first is we're gonna go to our server dashboard. Now this automatically opens up when you load Windows or once you log in. So and then we're gonna go right over here to Tools. Oh, sorry. We're going to go over here to Manage. And we're going to add Roles and Features. And I always skip this because usually I'm in and out of this thing all the time. Hit Next. You want to do role-based. Remote desktop services installation. That is for if you're doing multiple remote desktops for like thin clients that are remoting into the server for multiple user desktops. I'm old school. I like to run my sites role and feature based. Nothing to say that there's anything wrong with virtual desktop infrastructure. It's just it depends on what you're comfortable with and the type of hardware availability and everything else you have. If you're running a totally virtualized environment, sometimes a VDI is worth it. So anyways, just go ahead and hit next there. All right, so it's gonna want to know what server to work off of. So we're gonna do this. We've gone into our network settings and we have set our IP address up static because you're going to also, when you install Active Directory, it will install a DNS server in there with it. And so the DNS server IP address that you have will also be your DNS, will also be your server IP address for file shares and everything else. So, so that needs to be static. So go ahead next. All right, so then we're going to go in here and we're going to do Active Directory domain services and just leave it all defaulted, add features. And then this is more advanced stuff. So like certificate services, that's totally different. Federation services, lightweight directory services, rights management services. Those are more things that you would be at the enterprise level, to where you would have separate servers managing different parts of Active Directory within a very large infrastructure or a very large corporation. So make sure we install DNS server. If you don't, it's going to force you to do it anyways. Let's see. And then I always like to set my DNS control, or my domain controllers up as the file server. I mean, this is kind of a throwback to old school Windows Server 2003. Kind of an idea of how to set stuff up. So, but set up file server services. Don't necessarily need distributed files. DFS setup. You have to have file server set up in order to enforce quotas. I do know that. So that way you don't have one user dumping a ton of data into a file share and blowing and using 100% of the drive space that's available. This way you can set quotas up for each specific share, so that way they can't eat up all the drive space on a server. So let's see, and I think that is it. Yep, that's it. So hit next, and I think this is all automatic. A lot of this stuff you do not need unless you are doing unless you're in a very large unless you are in a very, very large enterprise, you don't necessarily need a lot of this stuff. So, okay, that's it. Let's see, hit next. We're not doing a hybrid domain with Azure, so we don't have to worry about that. And now where it's a new install, I always just go ahead and hit the restart automatically, because you're not going to have anybody logged into this, and especially on it if it's a new VM or it's a new machine. So now by Microsoft's new standard for Windows, especially in a 2016 or a 2019 server, it is recommended that you run your domain controller within a virtual machine and then run your host machine as a Hyper-V server. There's advantages to this, so if you corrupt your Active Directory, it won't completely lock you out of the entire machine. You still have the ability to get into the local machine and be able to pull files from everything, shut the machines down, and re-image them, back them up, restore files, whatever you have to do, without having to bring the entire server down. So there's definitely some advantages to that. So with the newer version of Windows Server, it's really designed to work in a virtualized environment. So okay, and that's it. Now of course we're running on the latest server that I just got done building. So this is a 12-core EPYC machine, and we're running NVMe drives on this, so it does it very quick. So alright, that's it. So that's how you set it up for Active Directory. And from here, alright, so from here then you just gotta configure your Active Directory domain. Alright, so you gotta promote server to domain controller. Alright, so let's go back here. So we're here at the dashboard. Alright, so we're going to go to ADDS, so that's Active Directory Domain Services. And then we're going to go to more over here. And then one cool thing about the dashboard is the server manager is always gives you these little drop down banners, which do kind of help push you along in the process. So hit more, it's going to say store post deployment configuration. So we need to promote to domain controller. This is where you go in and actually set up your domain stuff. So okay, so you're going to have add a domain controller to an existing domain. This would be for, like, say for example you had a like a car lot business, or you had a business with multiple physical sites, then you would have a domain controller at every site. So the primary domain controller would be the forest controller, and each domain is a tree within the forest, to give you a visualization of how that works. So your top tier unit is the forest domain controller. So that's kind of the root of everything. And then each site would have so that would be like the domain controller at your headquarters. And then each site after that would be just a standard domain controller within the existing domain. Now, because of the fact that this is a brand new domain, brand new everything, so we're going to do, let's see. So we're just going to do forest. And this, okay, so the root domain would actually be so it would be your web address technically. And you can totally set it up that way. I do it a lot. So that would be your web address. So it'd be, 123.com or, whatever.net. This is boring.org. You can take your pick. So, okay, so root domain. So we're just going to say it's test.net. Okay, and then we're going to hit next. Okay, and then function level. So all domains still technically only function in the highest level is a 2016 function level. There's subtle differences between 2016 and 2012 functionality. Mostly it's just in virtualization and some advanced DFS configurations that you can do within 2016 that you can't do within 2012. Of course, if you're running a 2012 server, you're going to be upgrading here pretty soon, because 2012 goes end of life in 2023 is the last I checked. So that's going to be here in a couple of years. So if you're on 2008, dear God, why? Because 2008 went end of life a couple of years ago. Since it's 2021 now. Now, if you're in 2040 and you're still watching this, then evidently Microsoft hasn't changed a whole heck of a lot. So, all right, so tied to directory services restore mode password. So this is the, like, oh God, eject password. So this is if you want to take and you want to either A, you need to restore the domain back to a previous time, or B, you need to uninstall the domain off the system. That's the password for this. This is kind of like a God level password. So I'm just gonna make a password. Okay. Alright, and you can't do a read-only domain controller because of the fact that this is a forest level. This is going to be the forest controller. So, a read-only domain controller is just a replicative domain controller. So you can't actually create user accounts or update profile information and a lot of stuff on a read-only. It just is an archive. That's it. Type of thing that you would only use in a very large enterprise. Okay, so this, so this you ignore just because of the fact that the DNS will run independently of any other DNS, especially at the forest level. So. Okay, so the NetBIOS name is going to be test. So that's the name of the server itself. So now we could change this. So we could make this TF. Which would be the abbreviations for Twin Falls, for the city you're in. A lot of times, with a lot of my clients, they only have one location per city, so they don't have multiple locations in a city. And so you'll actually name, for ease of management, you name all your servers after the city name. So just kind of an easy way to do stuff. So, and next. Of course, we're doing this in the desktop environment because like I said, I'm old school. I learned on 2003 server with everything. So it goes through the prerequisite check. Everything's already installed. And we just go ahead and hit install. And it will set it all up. Now, if you're doing this on a really fast server, this doesn't take very long. If you do this on, say, a older server with mechanical drives and everything, this can take some time. So be prepared to probably go out for a cup of coffee and come back, or lunch if you're on a mechanical system. If you're on solid state, this goes really quick. And it's going to reboot. And there it goes. Okay, and we're back. So, oops. Hit the Control-Delete key to send it, and then you can log in. If I can type it correctly. There we go. And then it's going to go through and it's going to load everything up here. All right, fired storage servers, local server, all servers. Okay, and we're good to go there. Okay, well, that's pretty much it for that. All right, so then we can go in here and we can go to tools and we can go to users and computers. From here, there's our domain, which is test.net, and we can go in and we can change all of our users. We can add users by right-clicking and go to new and user, and then we can create all of our users that we need to. Domain level is really no different than adding a user inside of Windows. So there's a couple little more boxes you can check, but other than that, it's not really any different. Let's see. You do need to go in. Yep, it finally figured itself out there. All right. Go in and change DNS. Now, okay, so one thing you can do in this is, okay, so say I click on DNS here. I can hit here, right click here, and I can go DNS manager from here. I can go to tasks, and that'll just give me add roles and features. I can go to tools, and that gives me the master list, and then I can do DNS, which is the DNS manager. So all the same thing. Now I didn't go in and I didn't change my server name, which I should have. Usually that's one thing I do, is that way your everything's all the same. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to add your forwarders. Okay, so forwarders is going to be the DNS servers that you want to forward your DNS requests internally in within the network to the outside world. So usually you want to use Google, or you want to use, if you have an ISP that has a really good maintains a really good DNS, then you can use something like, you can use your ISP. I don't always recommend it because most ISPs are horrible about maintaining their DNS servers. So just depends on your ISP. But if you want to use Google, if you want to use Verizon, AT&T, some kind of backbone network, the big ISPs or the big data centers of the world maintain really good DNS servers, and usually don't have to worry about DNS poisoning and stuff like that. So we've got Google set up. A lot of times I would go in and I would add, you got 4.4, which is Google's secondary DNS. So I probably would add those two in there, and then you're good to go. Alright, so you do forward lookup zones, and then do test.net, and then from here, then you can go in, you can add all your hosts. Now, as you add your computers to the domain, this will happen automatically. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So, okay, so that's how to do a domain, or raise a server to a domain controller, and then set up DNS and everything. We'll go ahead. I think we're gonna have enough time, especially after I go through and do a little editing. I think we'll have enough time. We can just go ahead and we can do a computer. So, all right. So we're gonna pause here and be right back. Okay, so we're logged in here on one of the mini PCs we just got done building. We haven't activated Windows yet on this one because we just haven't. It will be activated later on. Okay, so anyways, all right, so we're gonna get out of all this stuff. All right, so we got to go in and we got to add ourselves to a domain. Now, inside of Windows, there's a couple ways you can do this on Windows 10 as of right now. This might change here shortly. So if we go to this PC, go to Properties. Okay. And nope. Okay, so this has changed. All right. So this is the same as if you went to Start, went to Settings, or with the notifications, went to All Settings, same thing. Go to System, go to About. Alright, so PC's already been named, it's NPC1. Okay, so rename this PC Advanced, and that gives you the old system properties. And then we want to go down here to rename this computer or change its domain or work group. So we're going to hit change, I'm going to hit domain, and we're going to go to test.net. Oh, okay, dirty little trick. If it does that, that's probably a good thing I changed that. You got to go in here. You got to go to your adapter properties. You got to go to properties in here. And you've got to change your DNS so that where your primary DNS is your DNS server on your domain controller. I always forget that on the first time through. Alright, so then you can hit OK. Look at that. Alright, so then you can do Is it admin or is it no? So we still have default. Okay. And then it'll authenticate and it'll say, yay, welcome to the test domain, test.net domain. And you hit OK. And it'll say, you must restart. Well, no kidding. Then you can hit OK. And close. Restart now. So it'll go ahead and it'll reboot. So, all right. And that's it. It's literally that simple. The hardest part to all this is going through and actually setting up file shares, user policies, access rights, and all kinds of stuff that you have to do on the server end. So at this point, this is where we say, welcome to the rabbit hole. This is how far deep you want to go. So all right, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, share, subscribe. Leave your comments, questions, and concerns below. And we will see you on the next one. Bye for now.